Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, a childhood love story turns sour when Opie discovers his wife, Amanda, cheating. Despite years of support through college and early careers, their marriage ends abruptly. Caught in a moment of betrayal outside a donut shop, he confronts Amanda, leading to their divorce. Despite lingering feelings, the betrayal is unforgivable, leading to a painful separation, despite protests from friends and family. Now let's get into the story. My wife Amanda and I used to be madly in love with each other. We were kids who grew up in the same neighborhood, and although I was a few years older than her and ahead of her in school, we still knew that we liked each other. As teenagers, we used to hang out with each other a lot. And if there was any house party in the neighborhood that Amanda was at, you find me there too. When the time for college came, I got in a year before her, and 2 years later she joined me while I was in college. She visited whenever she could, and her parents gave their consent because they knew we were together. When she eventually joined me, I was forced to move out of my tiny studio apartment and rent a bigger space to move in together and live like a couple. I can't really put a number on the years we have been together, but I can say she was there with me for a long time. Like regular teenagers, we broke up a couple of times and got back together once. We even have a nasty fight and she moved out of our apartment, but after everything was settled, she moved back in. We were already used to each other, and no matter how often we fought, we'd always run back into each other's arms. Honestly, I loved Amanda a lot, and I could not even imagine spending my life with anyone else. I had gotten so used to her, and even when I tried to flirt with another woman, they still could not be like Amanda. Right after I finished college, I was lucky to get a job at a journalism firm, and though it was hard to adjust initially, the money started coming in steadily. When I started to earn, things got so much better. Between Amanda and me, I could finally afford to buy her the things she wanted, take her to the restaurants she always wanted us to go to, and I even got her beautiful ladies stuff and lots more. Before then, I depended on my parents' money and the peanuts I earned from working part-time at a pastry shop. I ensured that I cared for Amanda, her needs while she was still in college, and contributed in every little way I could. When Amanda finished college, she didn't get a job immediately. She submitted her CV to several organizations until she was lucky to get called and hired by one. With her new job, things got easier for us and the burden of caring for everyone alone got off me. We began to split bills so it could enable us to save some money and do the things we wanted to do for ourselves. 2 years after we both got jobs, we decided it was time to get married. We didn't want a big wedding anymore like we always imagined as children, because we understood the financial burden we would have to bear. So we opted for something small and classy. Amanda loved classy, and I was cool with whatever she wanted, provided it made her happy. We made preparations for the wedding, saved a lot of money, and when it was time, we returned to our hometown. It was meant to be a small garden wedding, but it was bigger than we expected. Our parents took care of some things for us, making it classier than we expected. The wedding was a success, and we were both so happy. After the wedding, we returned to the city and continued our regular lives, but we didn't want to have kids immediately, right from when Amanda and I were teenagers. She loved going for night walks. She always wanted to feel the cool evening breeze in her hair and admire the shops and beautiful ST lights at night. And she loved how beautiful the city was at night. I was already used to her walks, and whenever I was less busy, I would join her, or she would go without me. Even after we got married, she continued with her night walks, and I didn't have any issues with that provided she walked on a road or street where there were many people. The only times Amanda didn't go for her walks were only when she was exhausted from work, or there was a curfew in the city for the whole 2 years of our marriage. Amanda went for her walk at least 4 times a week, and I never suspected that she was doing anything behind my back. One day around 11 p.m., Amanda had gone for her walk as usual and had not returned yet. I can't explain how, but the sudden craving for donuts just came. It was so strong that my nose began to perceive the sweet aroma of hot donuts, and when I could not hold it anymore, I decided to drive to a nearby donut shop. On getting there, I discovered that the donut shop was already closed and I was so disappointed. I already texted Amanda that I would step out for some minutes in case she got home and couldn't find me. I was in the car park, close to the donut shop, and just about to drive out when someone knocked on my window. I wound down my window and the guy introduced himself as one of the workers at the donut shop. He said he had just gotten off work and needed my help to pass him some current because his car was not turning on. I said okay, and I got out my wire plugs, and just as we were trying to put them on his batteries, suddenly my wife came out of his car and asked, "Did you find some help?" And he responded that I helped him. When my wife looked up and realized it was me, she froze at the spot. I looked at him and told him she was my wife, and he tried to defend that my wife was single because he had never seen her with a wedding band. Amanda began to cry and apologize. I could not believe it. I just took my wires and left them without helping him. Amanda called my phone repeatedly and didn't come home that night. When she came home the next day, she saw her bags packed outside the house. She begged me and even said I should not let one mistake ruin all our years together. But that was it for me. She knew how much I hated infidelity, and there was no way I could let that slide. Our friends and parents were shocked when we divorced, but it had to be that way. Even though we are apart now, I still think about her, and I know it will be hard to get over her, but I just cannot condone a cheating partner. Today's second story. In this story, after 15 years of marriage, Opie's wife, Judy, cheats on him with her high school sweetheart. Despite his unwavering love and sacrifices for her dream of owning a restaurant, Judy's betrayal leads to divorce. She falsely claims pregnancy to prevent him from leaving, but he reveals his infertility. Judy faces the consequences alone as her lover rejects her and the pregnancy. He struggles to trust again but moves forward. Now let's get into the story. My wife Judy and I had been married for 15 years, but despite all the love I showered on her, she chose to hurt me and destroyed everything we had. When I first met Judy, she was such a friendly soul. At that time, she seemed to be the kind of woman I was looking for. She was kind, beautiful, strong, witted, and committed to achieving her lifelong dream of being a chef and owning her own restaurant one day. The very first time we met was at a cooking competition. I was invited to be a judge. Although Judy didn't win the competition, I fell in love with her, and we continued to talk after the competition. Being someone who loved good food and coming from a family who loved to cook drew me to Judy. Maybe because we shared the same passion and interests, and even without telling her. I knew that if we joined our forces and resources together in the future, we would have our own restaurant like she always wanted. Along the lines of getting to know each other better, we fell in love and a new form of relationship started. Judy and I dated for 2 years before I finally asked her to marry me. When she agreed, we began to make wedding plans and plans of surviving on our own after the wedding. Luckily, I got a job with a cooking television show to be their judge, and we could live an easier and more comfortable life from the money I was paid. Judy, on the other hand, worked as a chef for one of the top restaurants in our city. She started as an intern, but because of how good she was at cooking, she got retained, and Judy had been working there for the past 15 years of our marriage. She grew with the restaurant because she was passionate about cooking, and like I said, we had hoped to have ours someday. The few years of my marriage with Judy were perfect bliss. We did everything as a couple and were happy, but the only thing we didn't have was a child when we got married. Newly, Judy and I did not want children yet. We just wanted to settle down well and put things in place before we had our own children. But after 15 years of trying, I figured that it was better for me to channel all of my savings so we could open the restaurant. I decided to do this because I was infertile and responsible for our inability to have children. But I couldn't bring myself to tell Judy. I knew how much she wanted to have kids and saw how she looked at pregnant women, nursing mothers, and her friends' children. But whenever she said we could go ahead and adopt a child if we couldn't make one, it made me feel more at ease. Even without having our own child, Judy and I were very happy. Whenever people asked us why we didn't have any children, we simply told them we did not want anyone and they'd stop questioning us. Also, to make up for not having kids, I tried to get Judy whatever she wanted. Most times she'd just be scrolling through her phone and she'd see something she liked, and before she knew it, I had ordered it for her. I got her clothes, shoes and show tickets, paid for vacations, and practically did everything so she wouldn't regret being with me. Whenever I was free, I'd do house chores, grocery shopping, cook, clean, and even do her laundry so she wouldn't have anything to complain about. All this while, I didn't tell her that I had been putting money aside for 15 years so it could help us own our restaurant. The money I set aside was supposed to be for our children, but since we didn't have any, I kept saving for our dreams. All of a sudden, Judy's attitude towards me began to change. She preferred to spend more time at work than coming home to be with me. Not just that. Within those months, our intimacy level dropped, and every time I tried to touch her, she'd look at me in disgust. I began to feel lonely and abandoned, and I couldn't even understand why she treated me that way. At a certain point, she refused to eat the meals I cooked and wouldn't even come home in time for dinner. And for someone who had spent the last 17 years with her, the rejections really got to me. At night, whenever I tried to cuddle her, she complained about being unable to sleep. But before the time she changed completely, Judy could not go to bed without being cuddled. It was at that point that my gut told me something was wrong. One night after she rejected me as usual, I turned to my side of the bed and waited for her to sleep. When she eventually slept off and started to snore, I took her phone and checked her messages but could not find anything. At the same time, I got a pop-up notification from Facebook, and when I opened the app, I saw a lot of messages between her and another man. I read the messages from the beginning and was heartbroken to find out that she was cheating on me with her high school sweetheart. From their conversation, I saw they had sex several times and even had dinner together the previous week. I was in a state of shock when I first heard this, but then took screenshots of the messages and sent them to my phone just in case. She denied it when I confronted her the following day. I went to court and filed for a divorce, then returned home to pack my bags. When she returned home that evening and didn't find me, Judy called, confused about what was happening, and told her I had discovered everything. Funnily enough, she did not deny that she was cheating on me. Judy said it was a mistake, and she told me I could not go because she was pregnant with my child. I laughed at her on the phone and told her I was infertile. It was apparent that she was trying to pin her lover's pregnancy on me, but I wouldn't let that happen. I also told her about all the money I had been saving for the restaurant, and when she heard the amount, she began to beg me. Shortly after, we divorced forced, and she had to deal with her lover's pregnancy alone. Her high school sweetheart broke up with her because he didn't want her to destroy his marriage. Unfortunately, he rejected the pregnancy, and she suffered for the baby alone. I have moved on now, and though it might be difficult to love again, I don't think I'll be able to trust any other woman. Although if I eventually do in the future, it might be very long.